At 54, I feel probably in some of the best shape that I've been.
You feel better now than in your 20s.
Yes. This is what I tell everybody that I talk to. You know, I was tired of being tired. Had told me he really thought that I wasn't eating enough protein. I'm like, dude, I'm eating protein all the time. It's like I came to solve Reboot. They're like, Sean, you're not digesting the protein. I saw the benefits of the first detox I did. In the 3 weeks that we did it, I lost 16 pounds.
Yeah,
it's gotten so expensive to eat healthy. For people that are struggling,
Welcome to Reboot Use podcast, where we focus on your health, your business, your family, and how the hell you deal with it all. Today, you're going to hear from Sean Brainerd. He's a partner of mine and a friend, and how we came together to create True You Health. This is an advancement in preventative medicine. You're going to learn a lot about some of the biggest hypes that are out there right now, just from our experience, and then why True You really is going to be something that goes right into your home, but it's going to change the way we do individual care because it's helping you based on your body and not putting you in a template. There's so many different DNA kits in that which puts you in a template. So I'm excited for you guys to hear about True You because it's a way that you're going to be able to start to fix your own body through alternative medicine. My guest today is Sean Brainerd. He's a friend and a business partner. And I thought it'd be cool for you to kind of tell us a little bit about your story and how you go from refrigeration to regenerative medicine.
Thanks, Fabian. I really appreciate being here today. And obviously, we've developed a business relationship and a friendship over the last 4+ years. So strange. So went to an engineering school, got my degree in mechanical engineering. Kind of got introduced to a little bit of healthcare with one of the professors there who taught alternative organs and systems. So it was more focused on kind of orthopedics. Had a desire to go that direction, but that was in the early 90s. And I actually went and saw a hip surgery in my senior year, total hip surgery. And at the time, it just happened to be a Depew rep. The salesman at that time purchased the instruments and the equipment and then charge the hospital a loaner fee. And I didn't grow up with a family with a lot of money, and that initial investment was $25,000. I was like, there's no way that's happening.
Damn.
So actually got into kind of my second nature was thermodynamics. I had several classes in thermodynamics. So I went to work for a chiller manufacturer in Indianapolis and then was sitting behind a desk for about 6 months, and I kept seeing these salesmen come in and talk to me, and I was like, man, I'd much rather do that than be behind a desk actually out there talking to people. So I went to work for a valve company and went to St. Louis for a year. They moved me to Atlanta, was kind of in that position for 10 years and just was looking for something more. My brother was going to school to become a PA.
Okay.
I kind of wanted to get in the medical business and went to work for Smith & Nephew at the time. And
What's that?
Smith & Nephew was an orthopedic company.
Oh, okay.
And my focus was total joints. So I was in the OR with physicians.
Selling like the pieces that they put in people? Or?
Yeah, selling the pieces. So it's a pretty gruesome. It's pretty amazing the number of surgeries that there are per year, but it's carpentry with bone.
So you saw some serious stuff. I don't do good seeing like open wounds and all that, but you must have been like...
I've seen probably more than you can imagine or ever would want to see. Let's put it that way.
So there's probably a gruesome side to that too, I could imagine.
Yes, and it's funny. I didn't know how I would react because when my wife was having our first child, she was getting her epidural and almost passed out. And I was like, okay, how am I going to be able to handle that? And I think it was just the fact somebody that you know or close to,
Yeah, right.
and seeing that happen versus somebody else that you don't know on a table. And I kind of went from that and really. I played basketball and baseball in college, and I started having some issues. I had surgery when I was 20. I had a torn lateral meniscus. I started having issues in my late 30s. So obviously I knew what the end result, if I didn't start to address that, would be.
Oh, no shit.
Which would be a total knee.
That's cool. So it's like you saw that ahead of time.
Yes, 100%. Not that I didn't think that the technology was good or the physicians were good. It's just, there's so many different things that can happen. From an infection side, obviously, that would be the worst thing that would happen, or something catastrophic on the table under anesthesia,
Yeah.
which I've seen all of that. It's and I was like, I'm gonna do everything that I could to avoid that. And my first step was to get, hyaluronic acid injections. So as we age, our joints stop manufacturing the hyaluronic acid, which is literally the lubricant
Right.
in our joint. So at the time, Smith& Nephew had a product called Suparts. That was a series of 5 injections, consecutive weeks, and the first series lasted almost 2 years. And then I started noticing symptoms, and my symptoms really hasn't been much pain, but it's always been tightness and swelling.
Okay.
So after 2 years, I started having symptoms again. I talked to the physician. He's like, "Hey, well, let's do another series of Suparts and see if that helps." The next series lasted about 8 months, and then I was like, "Okay." Started doing my research, heavily in, and I started hearing about, at the time, amniotic tissue, amniotic fluid from C-sections
For the stem cells?
for the stem cells.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, "You know what?" I talked to a physician that had it done, and he had amazing results, and I was like, "Okay, let's do this."
How long ago was that?
I'm gonna say, so I'm 54, gonna be 55, so it was around 42 when I had that.
So that's like 11 years ago. I feel like that
Yeah,
was pretty
12, yeah, 11, 12 years ago.
like in the early stages maybe of like stem cells or no?
Well, it's interesting as far as amniotic tissue and amniotic fluid, it was used in the early 1900s, all the way up until the 80s when kind of the AIDS crisis came,
Okay.
and then they were very concerned about using allograft tissue. Allograft tissue's tissue that comes from somebody else.
Yeah. Dumb it
And
down, man.
and, with the AIDS scare, really all of that usage went away. And then as technology increased and they're able to separate, RNA, different things out of the material that they're harvesting, it got much safer.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I think it should be used today in every surgery.
We'll get to that a little bit later too, but that's awesome that they keep advancing things. And that's part of it, right? It's just moving with the advancements and not just like lingering in the history of something that maybe had an issue for a while there.
Yeah, and I think as I started diving more into it, and, I started selling the product then because I saw the results that I had, and, I was like, "This stuff works." And then I reached out to the company, became a distributor, and at one point in time, I was the largest distributor for this company in the United States. Had s over 100 offices buying the product. R insurance was also reimbursing, as well, and, I'd have a lot of physicians ask me is, "Hey, we have some patients that do really well and other patients that don't."
Mm.
So I really started diving into it, and then in my mind, I always think very logically just from an engineering standpoint, let's take a step back and look at what's happening and how we can get a better outcome. I started diving into nutrition and hormone, and I'm like, "Hey, if we were able to balance a patient nutritionally and hormonally or get their levels to where they be to optimize their body, I think we get much better results when injecting, some type of biologic." And that's kind of where I really started our process. And I started, diving heavily into the nutrition side because at the end of the day, and that's where we'll get into the epigenetics, and, it just made sense to me.
Yeah.
We are what we put in our body and we are what we're exposed to.
So I think that's when you and I first met, that was kind of what you were starting to talk about is you wanted to integrate the nutrition part. And I think that's where we met was you were introduced to that hair follicle test and then
Yes.
somehow I think through another party we got introduced and then I was like, yeah, man, I've been utilizing this like since 2014 in like a clinic environment and you were the first person to come to me with the medical side saying, man, we got to integrate this.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's been a road and a pathway that I think I'm on that I'll never get off. And, it's really not about the money. I think it's about changing people's lives. And I'm going to give you an example is, I knew I had made some poor health choices. Obviously, growing up as an athlete, exercise is heavily a part of that. As you get older, you start thinking that other things are more important,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially from a social aspect.
Yeah.
That I won't say consumed my life, but when part of my business is to entertain physicians to gain that trust, that business, you're spending a lot of times going out to dinner, on the golf course, etc. And I noticed personally my health started to decline, and I wanted to really look and try to make appropriate changes. Wife was concerned about my health. I went to a physician.
That's nice.
She's a good woman. We're gonna be married 25 years next year, which
That's
is
phenomenal,
it's
man.
hard to believe that she's put up with me for this long. Went to a physician and, high blood pressure,
Mm.
high cholesterol, borderline type 2 diabetic, and his answer was prescribe 4 different medications,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I'll see you back in 6 months. And knowing what I know, I didn't stand for that. I was like, "Doc, I know what I need to do. Um, if I come back in, let's say, a year and I lose 40 pounds, do I have to take any of these medications?" And he goes, "Well, let's wait and see what happens in a year."
Okay.
Year came back and, I'd lost not quite 40 pounds, I think 37 pounds, but definitely had focused to get off the medication.
So
Um,
all your numbers got better?
some of them got better,
Okay.
for sure. Still, I think some of it's a little bit hereditary. There's probably, and we can talk about, there's probably some underlying systems
Yeah.
or underlining the root cause of things,
Sure.
which, I think that's a real issue with healthcare today, is it's so much easier to write a prescription and hand it to a patient than actually to do an analyzation of what the root cause, what's causing your cholesterol to be high.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's easier and it's faster.
100% is.
So then they can fit into the insurance companies and all that and see 60 people a day because that's what you got to do to make it work financially, right?
Exactly, and then I was at the point in time where I just felt like for me, going to a physician and they're wanting to prescribe medication, I was looking for other options. And it's funny because I actually asked him, and I'm not gonna mention his name, he's a very, highly profiled endocrinologist in Atlanta, and I was like, "Hey, I've been hearing a lot about concierge physicians, and do you know of anybody?" And he actually gave me, a lady in Atlanta, Dr. Laura Lyle, and, my wife and my whole family started seeing her, and that really set my drive to really start looking at it more of a holistic, natural
Cool.
approach to let's really analyze. And then once I got exposed to the epigenetic hair scan, I was like, "Okay, this is game changer." I've been looking for something like this from a technology side,
Yeah.
and it all made sense.
Right. That's the key. But one of the things that I think is interesting, and I think this is a fact, I've heard it more than once that, and you being in this industry with surgeries, the second leading cause of death in the United States is malpractice, right? Or is, I forget what the right word is of that. It's where the medical system are in the hospital, you go to hospital and then you end up dying. I forget what that's.
Yeah, I don't think it's malpractice, but I think
Not,
maybe misdiagnosis or mistreatment, I don't know.
yeah,
It's
there's a proper way to say it,
yeah,
but like in basic terms, I don't know what the first is, if it's heart disease. I think it might be heart disease. And then second is dying under the care of the medical system. I forgot what that's called. But that is number two. That's what's so scary. It's because of infections. It's because of fear of being in a hospital and being diagnosed with something, whether it's cancer or whatever it
yeah.
is. So if that's a fact, and even if it's top five, that's where like this, you going to the doc and then saying that you're going to take a year and try to lose weight because these markers are high, and then you start doing things on your own and your markers go down, then, something's happening there that needs to be more explained and taught.
Yeah, I agree, and for me, and this is what I tell everybody that I talk to, it's like, I was tired of being tired. At some point, I think we all have to take responsibility for our own choices.
Yeah.
Pills not gonna fix it.
Right.
And, at some point in time, whether you're 40, whether you're younger, I mean, I talk to my kids about this all the time. You guys got a great opportunity being in your early 20s to early 30s to really have direction on this. There wasn't a lot of that direction. And that's where you start talking about preventative care is what can I do to prevent different things down the road?
Okay.
And
Where would you
so
say your health's at now compared to then?
I mean, at 54, I feel, um, probably in some of the best shape that I've been, at least till my mid to late 20s,
Okay.
when I met my wife, so that's 25 years ago.
So you feel better now than in your 20s? See,
Yes.
that's awesome. That's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that needs to be talked about, and why? Why do you feel better now?
Yeah, my regiment's pretty crazy, I was thinking about this actually last night. I was really thinking about how much money I spend on, in a sense, preventative care, whether it be nutrition, whether it be peptides, whether it be biological injections. And, me selling the products, I try all the products on myself prior to me
Yeah,
selling
you get them
them. So,
wholesale. So do you think it's like under $100? Is it hundreds, thousands? What do you think you
it's definitely hundreds a month.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same for us. I
yeah.
mean, we're putting it I don't really notice it because I buy it through the company and then I use it wholesale, right? But if I were
That's good and bad at the same time.
good and bad. But if I were to buy everything retail that I use right now, on and off, of course, and between me and Dana, so that we'll call it our family, just the two of us, food alone is probably 250 a week, and then supplements have to be probably close to like 500-600 a month easily.
I mean, you start to really look at, especially if you eat out, because, if you're gonna eat out, you're gonna go to a nicer restaurant just because of the food quality.
Yeah,
And,
and the drink quality.
and drink quality. So you can easily spend 250 at dinner
Oh, for sure.
nowadays. I mean, it's pretty crazy how
We did that last night. For sure.
how it's gotten so expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah,
And I think for people that are struggling, you're gonna have to spend time to make your food at home. That's the only way you can survive.
agreed.
And, we obviously make it a very good point for breakfast every day. I mean, we're eating at home. Very
Yeah.
rarely do we go out for breakfast.
Yep.
Part of that started with me and my analysis when I came to you guys after my hair scan. Protein synthesis kept coming up.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
you said that you knew that for a while, but the answer was different.
yeah, I was having gut issues,
Yeah.
and the original person that read my hair scan had told me he really thought that I wasn't eating enough protein. I'm like, dude, I'm eating protein all the time. It's like, and then I came to Saw Reboot, and you guys looked at it, and I told you some of the symptoms that I was having, and they're like, Sean, you're not digesting the protein.
Yeah.
That's the big issue.
So that's where, like, I wanna elaborate a little bit on that, just for everybody that doesn't know this. The epigenetic test shows what systems are low functioning, right? And so I was luckily taught this, but then I had other testing that I could verify that it was true. So protein synthesis means you're not breaking down protein well, and you're not absorbing it well. So when that comes up, and this is where I think conventional medicine a lot of times has been wrong for so long too, is your typical doctor would see that and say, okay, you need more protein because amino acids is deficient, which kind of makes sense in a way. So if amino acids deficient, you're not breaking down protein well, it's a deficiency, so eat more. But if your machine, your body can't break down the protein, then you can eat as much protein as you want. And it's not going to do anything except undigested protein is going to piss off your small intestine, which creates gut problems. And it's at least 70% of the people I see right now have the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, that was our goal is if we help your body break down protein, you should have plenty of amino acids unless you're like some kind of thoroughbred that's just sprinting all day everywhere and working out every day and crushing amino acids.
Right, and I think going through that process, and really it was a little about lifestyle change. At the
Yeah.
time, my lifestyle was pretty good, but it was more about, the supplementation and targeting the specific things, with the personalized supplements, um, and I saw that really it took a little while, it wasn't immediate. I'm gonna say 6 months till I saw some of those symptoms that I had, which at times when I would eat a lot of meat, I would really have trouble swallowing,
Okay.
and what it was is, as you guys said, as soon as protein hits your mouth, you have thousands of
Taste buds.
taste buds that
Yeah.
tell your stomach, "Hey, protein's coming, we need to create hydrochloric acid." That wasn't happening, so I was creating saliva in my mouth,
Right.
which was causing drainage issues, which was causing me having issues swallowing,
Yeah.
and sometimes it was exaggerated and it would be more difficult. I kinda notice that now every now and then. I was like, "Okay, I've gotten some gut issues." That's one of the things that I think is important on the detox, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit later,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna get to the point we Victoria and I did the detox almost 2 years ago. I think we're gonna get to a point now we're gonna do it every year.
I need to do it every year too. I do the colonics, but not necessarily the full detox, which I need to get more vigilant on that stuff. It's one of those things when I work in it every day, I just don't think about doing some of these therapies, and then, like, I have full access to it.
And it is, like I said, you get tired of being tired, and, I saw the benefits of the first detox I did. I mean, I say in the 3 weeks that we did it, I lost 16
Yeah, that's
pounds.
right. You had an awesome result.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the amount of inflammation in my body just go away,
Yeah.
and I
Mm.
see that now with the colonics. It wasn't obviously at the level that I felt like it was when I did the detox, but I still every time I do a colonics, I notice almost immediately my inflammation's down.
Yeah.
Uh,
To this day, I tell that story all the time about just that's what sold me on it 8 years ago was getting a colonic for a ACL tear, which I had almost 90% movement 36 hours after my colonic. Still had the tear, but the movement, I could move my leg almost fully again. I was like,
yeah.
"Holy shit, that's crazy." Like, just from a colonic, and that's where it just progressed from there. But it's just I think as we're moving forward and there's so many toxins we're getting, and you're just telling me the other day about more toxins that are being put into, things you wouldn't expect it because they're controlled by the FDA and, they're medically whatever it is. But I think the only solution we have is to keep detoxing the body and get the crap out of the body. What else are we gonna do?
Yeah, 100%, and I think it's probably gonna be more beneficial than ever. I don't know how else to explain it, but from our food sources,
Mm.
from what we're eating to the rain, to the water we're drinking, I mean, everything that we're being exposed to, and plus just the cell phones. I mean, how many people do you know, I do it too much myself, have the cell phone in their hand 24/7 almost.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Sleep it
2
right next
phones.
yeah, sleep right next to it, next to your bed.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and it's something that, technology's changed so much at the same time. 25 years ago, we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah,
We didn't have those EMFs, those 5G things, and
true.
everything that's around your house now between the internet and, some of the, like electrical, the gas, all of those are emitting 5G signals, so it's easier for companies to come out and check your meters, etcetera,
Yeah,
and I do know that there's a lot of people talking about that, about reducing that those those loads, those digital toxins on your body and having an effect, and I think at the end of the day, if you're not doing that, then trying to detox it once a year, it definitely is hugely beneficial.
yeah, for sure. So let's chat a little bit about True You Health. So from my end of it, the hair follicle testing, the custom supplementation, getting into things like peptides and that, well, that's more recent for me. You've been in it longer than I have. Like as Reboot, my goal was always to try to get as much information from the client as possible. So that's how I got into the hair follicle test. You were in the world of the hair follicle test as well. That's how we got introduced. And then at what point do you feel like you and I decided like we have to get this We have to make it look a certain way and bring it to the market.
I always kind of know I wanted to do that. I don't want to get into a long history, but I felt like in a lot of cases, especially when it comes about healthcare, you got to figure out how to market to people. You got to, in your mind, it's almost like me being in sales for over 30 years. I have to understand how to push a button or how to motivate somebody to be interested in buying something. For a physician, is it to use my total joint? Why? What benefits him? Whether is it easier for him to do surgery? Is it better for his patient?
Mm.
What motivates him to make those decisions? Interesting enough, most physicians choose the implants based on what they used during med school because they have familiarity with
Yeah,
it.
okay.
When they come out, they got to take their boards. They're like, I don't want to make any changes until after I take my boards. So, it's understanding. I call it what's their pain. What is a reason? And I think individuals are the same way. So I did a lot of testing on friends, family, et cetera, just to get there. And with the epigenetic hair scan, there's so much information you get, and then the analyzation about it. And you and I have been talking about this for a while. Is one, I always thought maybe the best way to is approach physicians, get it in their hands.
Yeah.
But I think if most physicians and most physicians' clinics, they're too busy dealing with the minutia
Yeah.
of owning a clinic, seeing patients.
Yes. Everything else.
Right. So for them to learn something, and we have a good friend of ours that's an ER doc, and has been for a long time. He's like, I had 45 minutes of nutrition in med school. So for somebody to go back that's fully involved in their clinic, that's running a practice, physicians really don't have time. So then it became, hey, how do we do the analyzation for the physician and give them a roadmap to discuss with the patient?
Yeah, and because this is literally how easy it was. So before you and I linked up, it's been like 2.5 years. We created a kit, and this was before True You even. Create a kit, so literally all you have to do at the clinic is pull it out. Somebody in there has to pull hairs from the back of the head, put it in the mail, send it to us, and then we send the report. The client looks through the report, and then they have their solutions, right? And just that process alone, it's hard to get them to pick it up. And that's where like I was getting frustrated because I'm like, you're getting 800 different wellness markers from this. Like
Yeah.
this is literally telling you what foods to eat more of based on your deficiencies, which means now you know what to supplement. If you have an issue with lipids, fat, so that's cholesterol, you can see it. So then you just do what it says. But because if that being too hard, that's where when you and I got together, we're like, it has to be so easy that they just drop it in an AI and AI gives them an end result. And that's what I think would trigger this whole True You deal, right?
Well, that and you probably know this better than I do since you've been reading the hair scans, what now, 11 years?
Yeah.
When you talk to mainstream healthcare physicians, they don't understand epigenetics.
That was a struggle 11 years ago.
And probably maybe the last couple years, epigenetics has really come to the forefront.
Yeah.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about, because we've had several conversations, and this is one of the reasons that I settled on hair, because there's some other technology that uses blood. There's some other technology out there that uses saliva. I think when you look at what the hair follicle provides from a data standpoint and the experience that you have with the analysis, I think that should be the standard, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the first time I think I only got into ChatGPT and AI maybe a year and a half ago, max.
Yeah.
And so it was the first time that I could start plugging some information in and getting feedback that maybe I just didn't really fully understand with somebody's symptom. And how does this relate to these markers? And what we're trying to develop, or what we have developed, and we're just fine tuning it, is now you guys want some kind of a score, right? Like a health score, something that you can say like, oh yeah, I'm on the right track, which again, this testing never had. So we've developed that, which is phenomenal, because now you get a cheese score, right? And then they have something to measure from scan to scan. Like, is it if what I'm doing is working or not.
I think that's hugely important. I pushed you for that, by the way.
Yes, you did.
Because I myself was like, "Hey, am I getting better? Am I getting worse?"
Yeah.
And we talked about it is with the report, you're getting somewhere between 29 and 39 pages. You hand that to somebody, they're going to be like, "Okay, what's this?" There's way too much information, even for a physician to try to explain that to a patient. There's way too much information. And then when we really start digging into AI, what could we do with AI? What could we do with different algorithms? Not to use AI to necessarily, in a sense, suggestive treatments,
Yeah.
but just to analyze that amount of data and pull out what we wanted to, like what your high needs are, your medium needs, your low needs, and then be able to kind of identify how those sync together. I think once we started doing that, I was like, Fabian, I think we need to figure out how to take this direct to consumer. There's some other companies out there that are billion-dollar companies in the nutrition space, and their product is really not designed for the individual.
Right.
It's for the masses.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with healthcare.
It's like an all-in-one type product, but
Right.
has phenomenal marketing and branding behind it.
We've gotten away from the personalized touch in healthcare going to physicians and for doctors.
Yeah.
They're looking at,
Sure.
hey, we're going to cover 80% of the people that walk through that door by treating them this way and forget about everything else.
Yeah.
And if you don't fall into that, sorry. With the nutrition, and I ask you this, I was like, hey, I'm tired of seeing commercials for this company. They're a billion-dollar company marketing nutrition.
Yeah.
And I was like, and you're like, Sean, it's like having a little bullseye on the door and you take a shotgun and shoot. You're going to hit some spots of that bullseye, but think about the number of
Yeah. People are sick enough to where you can take one blend, put it on the market, and so many people are going to feel better. So yeah, that's the key. We could probably come out with a water, and if just we had amazing marketing and we called it like Reboot Your Health Water, there's going to be like 50% of people are going to get better just because they're drinking more water. That's it.
So I was like, I understand marketing is important.
Yes.
They're not going to buy something unless it's pretty, it looks good. And I will say, quote unquote, we want to develop that personalized touch with our nutrition. Plus, also you're getting something that your body's deficient in that you need. So
Yeah.
no matter what you take that we provide you, it's going to be solely based on what you need from the hair scan. And there's no other company out there that's doing it. There's some people trying to,
Yeah.
but they're not been close. Plus the fact that you've got over 5 years of data to support the blends that
Right.
you're utilizing.
Yeah.
And the results that you're getting.
So like the True You, the whole concept we're trying to do here, which we just got our samples finally, they look beautiful. They had to look amazing because we're trying to create this Rolls Royce of DNA testing. Because again, people like visual, they love like luxury. There's some DNA testing kits that are like $800-900 out there. So we're like, okay, let's stay competitive, but make it super luxurious and make it an experience. So you're getting a hair kit, which is an experience. And we're hoping to launch this to where we have everything. What time? Where we can launch.
Obviously, we started the process with the box design. We hired a firm out of
Yeah.
Chicago to do all of that for us. I didn't want to have us try to do that ourselves. I've been very happy with the process has been a lot slower than we both have liked.
Would you say like first quarter?
I'm hoping the first quarter.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I was hoping for January. I think that's going to get pushed back a little bit, but maybe by the end of March, we have everything ready to go.
So this is what it's going to look like is you're going to get a really fancy version of the hair follicle test where it comes in. You get an awesome tutorial of how to pull the hair, what you're going to need to do. You get your own personal tweezers. So then you pull your own hairs. You're going to put it in the kit, return it through the mail, and then everything's going to be done through an app as well, which is awesome. And you're going to have access to your epigenetic test with 800 plus markers on your phone, which is going to tell you one, what your chi score is, your cellular health index, right? So we're going to know this is where we stand, this is where we're starting, and then here's what we need to eat, supplement, even potentially what therapies you need. And then you have your custom supplement, which is a whole food powder made just for your body, which then you take every day until you rescan. And then you go into a new blend based on the new scan. And that's how we prevent disease from building, because we're keeping the body primed and from being deficient too long to where it could cause a problem.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I would say in the last year, there's been a tremendous amount of different podcasts out there with different individuals talking about more of a holistic approach.
Right.
And it's the things that you and I have known. You've known a whole lot more than me or longer than I have, but I'm like circadian eating.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things. Also, we're based on the lunar cycle. Our bodies are changing every 90 days
Right.
based on the moon. All of these things now are starting to become main topic, which we know. That's why we do the hair scan every 90 days.
Yeah. Right.
I also wanted to be a part of this, like you said, is we're going to dial in everything you need. I just did this for a client of ours, and I took information. He hasn't done a hair scan or the HRV yet, and maybe we can get in a little bit into the HRV. But I got his blood work and did some analysis on his blood work. And, I'm a huge believer in nutrition, that we've got to start preparing and healing the body. There's only a few ways that we can do that. So I put together a supplement list, and he said money was a little tight right now. He just lost his mother. He's going through some medical issues with his wife. And I was like, I put together 5 top supplements for him to take. I added all of those up, and it was well over $200.
Mm.
And I'm like, we're going to customize a product for you that's going to hit 8 to 12 of those items that you're significantly deficient in.
Yeah. Right.
And, our goal is to be somewhere right around that $200 mark. We haven't finalized yet.
Right.
But I wanted this to be affordable too.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't want it to be, $500 a month. We
Right.
could probably charge that for it.
Yeah.
But I want it to be somewhat affordable, but I also want it to be something that, hey, it's not $15. We can't create that product for $15.
We can, but it would just be a one powder fits all.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the other products out on the market.
Yes. Which we won't name.
I think ultimately our goal in True You is to launch direct to consumer, the epigenetic hair scan and the personalized, customized nutrition right on the back door. And we'll get into this in our next podcast. Is you've been evaluating different algorithms based on the information that we're get, because obviously within the hair scan, we're getting deficiencies in amino acids. So being able to figure out exactly what peptides, instead of taking peptides because you want to take peptides,
Right.
but really what peptides should you be taking because your body's deficient in those amino acids.
Yeah. That's going to be cool. So we can start suggesting which ones and why. At least there's
Right.
data showing why.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, I think in steps to come down the road is obviously regenerative medicine's been a big part of my life for 11 or 12 years. Exercising is a huge part as well.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've both talked about. And whenever you kind of get into healthcare discussions, it seems like exercise and activity are always put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I think we've got some exciting things that we're partnering with some people,
For sure.
cutting edge technology on the exercise, that I'm looking forward to sharing that as well, that I feel like is game changer in the
Yeah.
industry.
So part 2 coming next. Thanks, Sean, for talking today.
Thank you, Fabian.